Hello, friends. Kaysha here, and some of you might know me from the Karis Project podcast. So, today I want to share with you a few updates of things that we have going on and how you can be a part of helping us going forward. So, as many of you know, my father, Dale Richardson, is a mechanical engineering technologist with a bachelor's degree in technology, and I worked for the provincial government back home in Saskatchewan, Canada, at a maximum security prison and hospital for the criminally and mentally insane. Now, as many of you know, we were exposing the improper contagion mitigation procedures for the COVID pandemic in early 2020, and likewise, how that relates to human trafficking, treason, and election interference in Canada and the United States. And this is precisely why the Karis Project has filed petitions for redress of grievance in the states of Texas, Colorado, and Michigan, as well as the province of Alberta in Canada. Now, it has recently come to the attention of the Karis Project that there was a mother in Colorado who was punished by the courts for trying to protect her children against a predator for being sexually abused and brutally attacked by the father. She's now going to jail and serving time for trying to protect her children against the evils and the corruption that we have all seen the last few years. Now, this is the same thing that we are seeing with Alberta's Minister of Health, Ariana Lagrange, who would not take the necessary actions to protect children from being sexually abused by convicted pedophiles and continuing to allow them to practice in the province of Alberta. And their licenses are currently being protected by the Alberta College of Physicians and Surgeons. Absolutely horrendous, if you ask me. The failure of our governments to bring these petitions to the floor have directly affected patriots like Tina Peters in Colorado, who are being politically persecuted with complete impunity, by the way, while convicted pedophiles are being protected. Here at the Karis Project, it is important to us that we the people are able to take our rights back and use our God-given constitutional rights to be able to expose the evil going on in this country and hold politicians accountable. We need especially the strong men to take charge in supporting the Karis Project's action plan financially in doing the work of holding the government accountable to protect our rights. And if you guys know me, you know already that this is my favorite quote, and so I'm going to leave it with you here today, because the most important thing that we need in this country right now is strong men. And I, as a woman, know just as much as anyone else just how valuable and important it is for us to have strong men leading our country to success. And so I'll leave you with this. The greatest want of the world is the want of men. Men who will not be bought or sold. Men who in their innermost souls are true and honest. Men who do not fear to call sin by its right name. Men whose conscience is as true to duty as the needle is to the pole. And men who will stand for the right, though the heavens may fall. So, my friends, you've heard all that I've had to say today and the importance of the same. As you can see, we have people, strong patriots, and women standing up for what's right and being completely destroyed. Politically, financially, we have good women in this country, good mothers whose children are being completely abused and taken advantage of within the system and even within their homes. And nothing is being done about it. Now is the time to take a stand. The Karis Project has an action plan, and based on all the experience that we've had throughout the years, we have the ability to teach people how to get this done. We need to work together in a time such as this, because our time is limited. Elections are coming up, and something needs to change. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. Now's the time to take a stand, and that is precisely why I encourage you to stand with the Karis Project for we the people. Thank you.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Karis Project podcast. And today we have with us Maxime Bernier, the leader of the People's Party of Canada. And he was a lawyer. He was a member of Parliament for the Conservative Party of Canada. Ended up leaving and starting his own party. He was also out with the People's Convoy in Canada, the Truckers Convoy, and so forth, and has being a grassroots movement across Canada with Canada First policies and so forth. I'll let you explain that a little bit more, and with my daughter, the host. So I'll turn it over to you, Maxine, if you want to tell us a little bit about yourself and the People's Party of Canada.
I want first to thank you very much for giving me this opportunity to be with you today. And also for some people who doesn't know me, yes, like you said, I was elected in 2006 under the Conservative, under Stephen Harper in Canada. And we were able to be in government. And I was, minister for industry minister, and after that, foreign affairs minister, and under the upper government. But before politics, I did work in the private sector. If you compare that with the actual leader of the Conservative Party of Canada, who is Pierre Poilievre, and he never had a real boss. He was elected at 24 years old and is still in parliament. So I'm not a career politician. It is what I want to tell you. I know what it is to have a boss and to work hard. And I decided in 2006 to jump into politics because at that time I wanted to have a smaller government that will respect people and that will lower taxes for everybody and respect our constitution without interfering in provincial jurisdictions and respecting provincial autonomy. So that's why I decided to go to be a politician. And that being said, I was a little bit disappointed, as you know, in 2015. Uh, Harper didn't win, and so we had a leadership contest, and I was a very strong free market candidate, and I was able to have 49% of the vote. I didn't win, but I tried to be sure that the Conservative Party at that time will be conservative. And I was very disappointed because in 2018, Andrew Scheer, the leader who was elected, told me that they won't take any of my ideas with a smaller government, lower taxes, flat tax, and fewer immigrants. And so I said, why are you not taking our ideas and my ideas? They were popular during the leadership contest. And Andrew Scheer was very honest with me. He said, yes, Maxime, but I'm running to be Prime Minister of Canada. That was in 2018. And he said, your ideas are not popular with the general population. So that's why, I left and I said this party is morally and intellectually corrupt. They don't promote conservative ideas when they are not that popular. So by doing that, they're doing and giving credibility to the leftist narrative, to the liberals. And we created the People's Party in 2018, just before the general election in Canada in 2019. And if I may just end that and said that in 2019 we had 1.6% of the vote as a new political party, populist, free markets, fighting for Canada, fighting to keep our sovereignty as a country, putting our country first, Canada first, with our policies, and Canadians first. That was a little bit disappointing, 1.6%. But at our second election in 2021, we were able to almost triple our score from 1.6 to 5%. And we are looking forward for the next election. That may be in October 2025. And if we double our score from 5 to 10, that would be great. So, more and more people now are speaking about our ideas, and they know who we are and what we want to do as a political party. And if I may compare what we are doing, our policies with the Trump, the president elected Trump, we on a couple of policies we share the same concerns. First, on the war in Ukraine, we said, I'm the only leader in Canada that said no more war. We must promote peace and prosperity. That war in Ukraine is not our war. Russia is not our enemy. It's the federal government that is our enemy with what they did to us during COVID-19, violated our constitution. So Trump also is for a peace in Ukraine. We have a policy to end the radical gender ideology. I'm the only leader who is saying that there's only two sexes, and I'm against men playing in women's sports, and I'm against the fact that if you are a trans person, that you will have the right to go to women's toilet and bathrooms and all that. That must be illegal. And actually, we need to protect women. And for the trans people, I'm against also the fact that they are trying to indoctrinate young kids in Canada. So that's the same. Trump is saying the same also about that, ending the radical gender ideology and the woke ideology in government. So, and the most important is on immigration. On immigration, Trump said, he wants to finish the wall, is ready to deport all these illegals. And same thing here in Canada. I'm saying that we must have a moratorium on immigration, no more immigrants. That is having a huge impact on our economy, society, standard of living. So we must fix that, and the only way to do that is to have a moratorium. And also, we must deport our illegals here in Canada. Next year, we will have about 1.5 million people, immigrants, uh, who their papers or their permits will be expired, so they will become illegals. And I'm thinking about foreign and international students who are coming here to study, but when they have their diploma, they must go back to their country of origin, but they don't want to do that. We'll have also foreign temporary workers. When their work permit is expired, they must leave the country, but some of them won't. So we will have more illegals in 2025, and we need to be serious and to deport them. So we agree with Trump on these policies, and I believe that the next election will be about immigration, like it was in the U.S., and the economy. And we are ready for that, the People's Party.
Sorry.
Can't hear you.
Yeah, my mic, I turned it off. These are all common sense type of things. Like, I mean, the last stat that I heard that they were bringing in over 1 million immigrants. I know, like at this year, around July, they already had 1 million that had come in. And Canada's like, we got 40 million people. That's like
Yeah.
2.5% of our population in 7 months. That's unsustainable. Like, where are you going to put them? The costs are going through the roof, and so they can't do that. Even Danielle Smith said that she wanted to double Alberta's population from 5 to 10 million. How are you going to do that? Like, there's no
Yeah.
infrastructure for it, right? So
You're right about that, Dale. That's the common sense. And that is having an impact on the housing crisis. And we have a crisis over there. It's a question of supply and demand. And the way to solve that is to have a moratorium. You'll have fewer people that will come here, and that will help to decrease that housing crisis. And you cannot build all these homes that we need for them. So let's have a moratorium. And you're right, the growth of our population, if you compare that with other countries in US or in Europe, last year, the growth of our population from last year to the year before was 3.2%. The average of population growth last year in Europe and in the OECD countries was 0.6%. So 98% of the growth of our population last year was coming from immigration. So that's not a theory of a replacement theory. That's the reality. If we continue like that, uh, we will replace native born Canadians with immigrants. We need to stop that. We cannot integrate them in our society when we have a huge number of immigrants that are coming and we have mass immigration in our country. We want the person that will come to our country to share our values, to integrate into our culture. But when you have mass immigration, when you have multiculturalism in Canada, where the federal government is promoting every culture except our Canadian culture, so you're having ghettos across the country, and people are not integrating into our society. That the impact of immigration, you're right, is huge. Not only on our standard of living, but our culture, our society, our country. We are, transforming the fabric of our country with mass immigration. And as you may know, we are the only national political party that is ready to fight for us, for Canadians.
Yes, and thank you. Like I know, like talking about immigration, nobody's saying that immigration is bad. You need to put the brakes on it. You just can't open the door and let anybody in. It's like at your house. Would you just leave the door open and just let anybody stroll into your house? No, you
Yeah.
vet the people, you see make sure that you can accommodate them because if you've got a two-bedroom house, you're not going to bring 50 people in your house. And this is where we've got to kind of slow this down and then vet the people, the type of people that you want. Are they going to enrich your country or not? And there are times where people need to have asylum and so forth, but they're abusing the system, and that should never be done. And so there has to be something done. And like, I mean, we were having a podcast the other day, and the amount of asylum cases just under Trudeau's watch alone increased like 95%. It's like insane. So why now, right? Like I mean, it shouldn't be happening. They need to scale that back. I agree 100%. So if you were to be elected, what would be the first thing that you do about the immigration? What would be like day one down in Ottawa?
Yeah, that's easy. The first day, we will change the regulations and said no more immigrants. So that will put in force our moratorium, and also we will give more resources to our CMP and the police to be sure to find all these illegals in our country to be able to deport them. And it will be we can do that our first day. So, and I must say that we will have the legitimacy to do it because that's part of our program. And contrary to Polyev and all these establishment politicians, we don't have a new program at every election after doing polling and focus group. We are doing politics differently based on ideas. And what I just said today about immigration, that's the same thing that we said in 2019, 2021. That's always the same platform. So what I'm telling you is we will have the credibility to enforce our platform when we'll be in government, because nobody will be able to say, "Oh, Bernier, how come you're doing that? You didn't campaign on that." No, that's the core of our party. We exist as a political party and a populist party because of these policies, and we will promote these policies until we win the battle of ideas.
Yes, the next thing I wanted to do is since we're talking about the federal politics, what about the issues, for example, on firearms, like where Trudeau just blanket comes out and says we're just going to take away the firearms from the law-abiding citizens, but do nothing to stop criminals from getting guns.
Yeah. We'll do the opposite. We will actually repeal all these legislations and new regulations that Trudeau is putting in force right now. And because we believe that, a hunter or anybody in Canada who have firearms, for us, is that person is not a criminal. And so that's why we don't need these kind of legislations. And if you look at the statistics and the data, the crimes that are happening in our country are with firearms that are not registered, that are illegals and coming from the black market. So we need to put our resources at the best place, and the best place is to fight crimes and not fighting law-abiding Canadians. That's why our position is very clear to repeal all these act and legislations that Trudeau passed. But also, if you want to know more, I will tell you that you can go on our website, peoplespartyofcanada.ca, click on platform, and we have 21 policies, only 2 pages for each policy. It's very easy to read, so you can read our policy on firearms, and everything is there. And so I'm very happy because we did work with Canadians across the country to help us to build that policy on firearms, to be sure that we understand their needs and what would be good for this country. And me personally, a year ago, I took a course. Now I have my permit. I can for restricted and non-restricted. So that was important for me to do these courses to know what we are asking Canadians to do when they have a firearms. And that's, I believe that Trudeau is adding always more and more regulation. So we'll repeal all that.
Well, I'm sure a lot of Canadians would be happy about that because they want to take away the firearms and arming the criminals. And then you look at, for example, like the situation with the justice, and the justice system has gone way out of whack. You get the guys that are shooting people and doing all these crimes, and they're getting bail in 24 hours. Yet they had the guys that were like getting mischief charges from like Coots and like in Ottawa that were held in prison. Like the guys in Coots were held without bail for like, you know what I mean, like over 2 years. So what would you do to sort out this issue with the justice where they're just catch and release with the criminal?
So we must change the legislation to be tough on crime. But I must say that Harper tried to do that. We had, when I was a conservative at that time, we passed legislation. If you do a crime, we were saying in our legislation, you must have a minimum sentence, 25 years or something like that. And so we were very tough on crime, and we did put in the legislation a minimum sentence. So like that, the discretion of the judge was limited. But what happened is the Supreme Court of Canada said that it was unconstitutional. And so after that, Trudeau came and did pass other legislation that are very favorable for criminals. So the way to solve that, we have a clause in our constitution, the non-abstaining clause, or that is the sovereignty of the parliament. So what we must do, we must pass other legislation that will be tough on crime with minimum sentences, and write in that legislation, notwithstanding the Canadian Constitution, these legislation will be enforced. When you do that, the Supreme Court of Canada cannot come back and say, or your law, your legislation, or that legislation is unconstitutional. So you are giving the sovereignty not to the judge, but to the parliament. And that's what we must do to be sure that the judges will be tough on crime, because they all woke judges right now. And I know that because I can tell you an anecdote. I was a witness in court in Manitoba because during COVID-19, as you know, I was arrested, handcuffed, and put in jail for a non-crime after a political gathering in a park fighting for freedoms. And so I had to testify, and I did it. And the first thing that the judge asked me was, tell me your name. I said, Maxime Bernier. Can you spell your name? I said, yes, I did spell my name. And after that, the third question was, what are your pronouns? And I looked at the judge and I said, can you see I'm a man and I'm not answering that question? And that was it. But our court and justice system is woke. So if you want to be sure that they're going to be tough on crime, you need to use the non-outstanding clause in our constitution to give the final word to the parliament, not to the judges.
I, I 100% agree. Judges are supposed to apply the law. They're not supposed to make it or to change it. Right? If this is what the law says, you're supposed to follow the law. Sure, you have some discretion based on the circumstance, but you can't strike the law down. And this is what the judges have been doing. And this whole woke nonsense that's been going on has been flooded and poisoning the schools. Uh, oh, wow. Oh, okay,
Yes,
there we
I'm
go.
there.
Okay.
Yeah.
My daughter, she was experiencing when it started to pick up steam when she was in school. And, I mean, she can sort of address some of the issues because they were doing that whole transgenderism there. And, now it's gone into the bathroom. So, Casey, you want to kind of touch a little bit on that?
Yeah, honestly, I think that there's no reason for someone who's opposite sex to go into the bathroom, like a man to go to a woman's bathroom or a woman to go to a man's bathroom. And I can say definitively, like, no one can say to me that I'm discriminating or anything because I dealt with this uh, transgender ideology personally. When I was in school, I was learning that boys can have girl brains and girls can have boy brains. And I told my dad about it. And I said, Dad, this is the science, this is the facts, because they brought it to us in a science based class. And I said, Dad, maybe this is me. Maybe this is why I like, watching you work on your car and playing the sports and stuff like that. And my dad was like, no, Kaysha, that's demonic. And you're not going to do it in my house. And I say, well, you don't know me. I'm going to do this. And so I cut all of my hair off. I was wearing very gender neutral clothing. A lot of people would think I was a boy in public because I was also a teenager. I was very small, body wise. And I never, despite the fact that I thought I was a boy, I never went to a boy's bathroom. I still went to the female's bathroom. I never thought to myself, I respected all the space of other people. I never thought to myself, I deserve to see children, little boys and little like children or whatever in their change room that like for just because I decide to be dressing this way. But for me, the reason I got out of it is because my dad, he prayed with me every morning. We had Bible study. He gave me solutions for the problems I was dealing with. I told him I wanted to get the top surgery. I was going to get it. My dad said, no, not in my house. You're not doing it. And I said, well, I just, I have back problems. I was making every excuse in the book. And my dad said, okay, we're going to the gym. And in a couple months' time, you can come back to me. And when you have all the muscles, and we can have the conversation again. And I gave up because everything I gave my dad, he came with a solution. And so by the time I went through this many months with my dad, I realized he was telling the truth. I was just confused. It was demonic ideology, and I was better because of it. I got out of it. People need to realize a lot of the parents You need to have good relationship with your children and conversation. You need to have a trustful communication with them because they're confused. And if you push them away, the school will trap them, because the counselors also try to tell me, oh, your dad, he doesn't know what he's talking about. He's trying to neglect what is going on with you and stuff. And my dad was like, no, I know my daughter. So, Maxime, I agree with you 100%. And if even you need support, people who have personal testimony to back you when you're going in the future in these endeavors, I will be willing to speak for you and help you with that, because more people need to see children who came out of it, that there are parents, because they try to make you believe that it's impossible to come out of it. They make it like it's a genetic, but it's not. It's not. It can be changed. It can be fixed.
Hello, everyone. Would you like to boost your performance, increase your focus, and restore your energy levels? Supercharge your energy and improve your cell health with the wellness company's Mito Support formula developed by experts like Dr. Peter McCullough. Mito Support formula contains 5 incredible ingredients, including D-ribose and PPQ. Best of all, it's vegan, gluten-free, and made right here in the USA, so you know you can trust it. Buying American-made naturalistic ingredients of this quality separately costs almost $110. Our formula is only $84.99. Get Mito Support today by going to twc.health. Listeners, use the code Carris at checkout for an additional discount. Go to twc.health, promo code Carris, Karis, and get the energy and focus you and your family deserves.
Donald J. Trump is officially the next president of the United States of America. While millions of people are rejoicing in victory, thousands of others are still concerned about their savings. The unfortunate truth is we still have over $35 trillion in debt, plus wars are still raging around the globe. So what can you do to protect your savings? Many Americans are already taking action by reaching out to the top-rated precious metal company, Goldco. Right now, Goldco is offering you a free gold and silver kit to show you how precious metals like gold and silver could help you diversify your savings before it's too late. Visit MikeLikesGold.com or call 855-441-GOLD to get your free gold and silver kit today. Plus, you can receive up to a 10% instant match on bonus silver for qualified accounts. Visit MikeLikesGold.com or call 855-441-GOLD. Because of your overwhelming support, our $14.88 MyPillow has been one of the biggest sales in MyPillow history. I couldn't think of a better way to say thank you than to extend our wholesale pricing through Christmas. Get a classic standard MyPillow for only $14.88. Upgrade to a queen size, just $18.88. King size, only $1 more. Get my body pillows for only $29.88. And ready? Multi-use MyPillows, only $9.88. It's perfect time to stock up for Christmas gifts for everyone on your list. Go to MyPillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code to take advantage of our wholesale pricing. Including my classic standard MyPillow is only $14.88. But that's not all. I'm so confident you're going to love our classic MyPillows that I'm going to extend my 60-day money-back guarantee until March 1st, 2025. Plus, orders over $75 ship absolutely free.
So
Absolutely, and you are the example of that. And thank you. Yes, but I've met a lot of people across the country, young people and some parents, and I know that it's happening all across our country, from BC to Newfoundland. That radical leftist ideology that is against the science is in our school. And that's why also, if you look at the data and the statistics, there are more and more Canadians who are homeschooling their kids because they don't want them to participate and to listen to that crazy ideology in school.
Yes, and people need to realize as well, just quickly, people need to realize as well the reason that the reason that a lot of these kids are coming into this is because of the heavy amount of trafficking and pedophilia that is rampant in the country. And a lot of little girls are the ones who are predominantly mutilating themselves on statistically. And for me, like for example, I was, trafficked as a kid in the foster care system. A lot of kids who go through this have some form of trauma that they need help working through, which is why fathers are so important in the house. So people need to start realizing where these come from and protect children from all the disgusting books in the school, the pornographic books in the school, the videos, whatever, all of this. They need to protect the children from that.
Yes,
Yeah.
one thing I wanted to say there is yes, this I talked to a guy. His name is Alvin Louis. He does Courage of is a Habit out of California, and he studied this whole way that they're using. They call it social emotional learning out west. Here we call it SOGI or whatever. But he was saying that the same tactics that they're using in the schools to push this transgender ideology are the same tactics that child sex traffickers use on children. They separate you from the protection of your parents. They expose you to sexually explicit material, which you're seeing this in the schools. They're grooming the children to do wrong things, and that's
Yeah.
a crime. It's not even just this. If you somebody did that to your kid and put those things to them in their house, they would get arrested. So why is this okay in
Yeah.
the schools? What would you do to put the brakes on this this criminal behavior?
Yeah, it is happening in our school all across the country. Speaking about schools, you know that it's under the provincial jurisdictions. The federal government cannot, dictate what they can teach or not in class. But that being said, that's happening all across the country because the Trudeau government did give a lot of money, millions of dollars, to NGOs and who that are promoting these ideas, and they use that money to travel across the country and promote that all across the country. So what we can do, cut the funding, follow the money, cut the funding, and also everything that is under the federal jurisdictions. We must be clear to everybody that we cannot accept that. And so that's the way. Cut the money. Trudeau gave millions of dollars to NGOs to promote that radical and toxic ideology.
Yes, and I
Wow.
agree. Cut the money because the provinces should be dealing with this, and we've seen a lot of the provinces sit down and say that we can't deal with it. But it's like, no, it's your jurisdiction. Fix it,
Yeah.
and don't
Yeah.
arrest the parents that are saying, "I don't want my child subjected to this." And speaking of this, for the parental rights, because this is coming
Yes.
under issues with the charter, which was federal jurisdiction. What would you do to ensure that the rights of the parents are protected? And especially because if you don't protect the rights of the parents, you can't protect the rights of the children. And what good is our charter if you can't have any protection for your kids?
Yes. It's very sad that every member of parliament vote. Hello?
Yeah,
Oh,
there
Yeah.
we go.
hello.
So
Yeah.
it's very sad that the parliament in Canada, every member of parliament voted for the bill C4, including the Conservatives and Pierre Poilievre. Everybody voted for that, and that bill is against the parental authority. And if you're a parent and you have a kid that who is suffer from dysphoria, or thinking that he may be a boy in a girl body, if you try to convince and give a therapy to your kid to accept his or her body, you can go in jail for 5 years. So that's the bill C4. And so that's against parental rights for sure. But Polyev and the conservative voted for that. We will repeal that bill. And that must not be a crime to be able to tell your kid what is to accept their own body, because for me there's no kids born in a wrong body. That does not exist.
Yeah.
But for these leftists, they are putting that in the mind of our kids. And so we must
Yep.
stop that and to repeal that bill. And same thing, the federal government is giving money for, transition. There's no transition, that does not exist. A boy cannot be a girl and a girl cannot be a boy. That's it. But the federal government is promoting that ideology everywhere with different organization. We will cut the funding there also.
Okay, that's good.
Oh.
So because we know that in Canada the healthcare is under the provinces, and the
Yeah.
provinces that are that are funding this to go ahead and continue to push the kids down and then give them the surgeries and so forth. What would you do? Obviously you can't interfere with the actual
Yeah.
healthcare, but what would you do from a federal perspective to help them get the attention of the provinces that don't want to fall in line?
Yes, Dale, the advantage that we have at the federal level is we are in charge of the criminal code. So we must change the criminal code and write in that code that it is illegal to promote that ideology by doing surgeries or giving hormone blockers to kids under 18 years old. So, and that must be criminal and illegal. So by doing that, if you want to mutilate your body, you'll be able to do that if you're 18 years old, but not before. So that will be a way to stop that. And say it's under our jurisdictions. We can do that tomorrow if we want.
I
Wow.
like that
Yeah.
a lot, and I think that criminal penalties for children to do this stuff to children should be there
Yep.
because they do not have the capacity to make these life-changing decisions that are
Yeah.
that they have no idea of the consequences, because sometimes you listen to the kids and they're just repeating what the parents are saying, and that's a crime. A doctor should never do this. And so I agree 100%. There needs to be criminal penalties for this kind of stuff because that is unconscionable. So then go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to add to that. If you want to know more about our policy on the radical gender ideology, it's on our website, only 2 pages, and you'll see our recommendation. And what I just said is a part of that. So peoplespartyofcanada.ca platform, click on platform, go and read the gender ideology platform, and you'll have our position. It's only 2 pages.
Yeah, one thing I wanted to make sure, because for the viewers that are in the United States, because a lot of people are touting Pierre Polyev, but you said that he voted and the conservatives voted for this to mutilate children at a federal
Yeah.
level and so forth. So, do you know how many of the MPs in Ottawa that were conservatives voted for this to destroy people's children?
Every one of them. There's 338 MPs in Ottawa. Every one of them voted for that. And there's a video on social media. You just can see after the vote, they were very happy and they were clapping and celebrating that legislation. So shame on them, every one of them, liberals, conservatives, NDP, Bloc Québécois, and Green,
Wow.
every one of them.
That is absolutely insane. That is
That doesn't even
insane.
make sense.
Uh,
That's
uh,
not even possible. like that. I believe you. I
That's
know you're. But this shows like that's a collusion, because
that's
statistically,
yeah. Yeah, you have a point
go
there.
ahead.
That's the trans lobby. The trans lobby was very efficient, and they were saying to MPs, if you're against that, you're against the trans. You know, I'm not against the trans. I'm pro children's. I want to protect our children's. And if you think that you're a trans and you're 14 years old, just wait until you're 18, and you'll be able to mutilate yourself if you want.
Well, when that idea, when people say this, I'm like, do any of you guys have children? Because I can sit down and say that there was things that my daughter did that I absolutely hated. Do I hate her? No. She's my kid. I don't have to agree with everything she does. I don't know a single person that I agree with everything they do. Well, I didn't even agree with everything I've done. So how could I? That's not even reasonable, right? We all make mistakes and go like, "Oh, that was stupid." So you disagree with it, you change it. So to say that I have to agree with somebody, but I hate them is insane. It's a
Yeah.
coercive tactic. Yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Keisha.
It's just the fact as well that if I at any point said, I would like to chop off my arm or my leg or my fingers because I believe I'm transabled. I'm disabled, and I was meant to be born without these arms or legs or fingers, and someone would say, well, you're mentally ill, you belong, and they would certify me into the asylum. And so when it comes to children, why is it when children are saying these things, why are we just saying, oh yes, this is who they are? Well, a child cannot go register themselves for war or to have a gun. They cannot smoke cigarettes, they can't drink alcohol, but they can mutilate their bodies, and it's not mental illness. We have to look into the deeper what's going on in these situations so that these kids can be protected, because at the end of the day, even if they're 18, and yes, they're adults and they can do whatever they want, but there's consequences that will bleed onto everyone else around us. And so there still needs to be the understanding within the medical system and within parents and schools. Even if these people decide to mutilate themselves, this is mental illness and it comes from somewhere, and we need to fix it. And it's sick. And like you said, Maxime, I don't care anybody's, it's not about people's feelings. It's about being protecting the children. It's fully protection for the children, and that should be everyone's priority.
You're absolutely
I
right.
can't hear you.
And actually, you're absolutely right. Can you hear me now? Yeah.
Yes.
And that's why it's important. It's so important for us as a political party, because our society is sick. We need to go and be out there with the real common sense and policies that are in line with our culture. And family values are important. And that's not the government who must tell us as parents what our kids can do on and no, the parental authority responsibility must be there. And that's why we decided to have a policy on gender ideology. When I jumped into politics in 2006, I never thought that saying that there's only two sexes will be something that you cannot say, will be a scandal. I'm the only politician who's saying that with Trump, that there's only two sexes. It's crazy, but our society is sick right now, and we need to be out there and to speak about what we believe with passion and conviction, because we have the truth based on science.
Yeah.
And so like
It
we had the truth during COVID-19, we have the truth right now speaking about that.
Yes.
it's
Going.
funny because during the sorry,
Go
I
ahead.
was just saying, during the gender reassignment surgery, they say there's so many different sexes, but when you go for gender reassignment surgery, you can only click two boxes, male or female. So they give their own cells away. Anyway, go ahead, Dad.
Yeah.
You were saying.
But since about this, like they're restricting and changing the way that you can speak, we're coming down to like one of the biggest, most important things that we have in our charter, which is the freedom of expression, which is freedom of speech, which is being heavily restricted. Like people are starting to get prison. They want to go back and use the online harm, so that if you went back and said something, that they're going to sit down and say that you're a criminal, or you hurt somebody's feelings because you don't want to believe their delusion. That's fine. If they want to believe it, don't force it on me. But if you say something, what would you do to protect our freedom of expression, our freedom of speech?
You're right about saying, our freedom of speech is in danger here in Canada and in other Western countries. Uh, I was in jail because they didn't want me to speak and say, as the leader of a national political party, my job is to speak about ideas and our philosophy as a political party. But they put me in jail for 12 hours because I was speaking. So we need to protect absolutely our freedom to speak. That's the most important freedom in our Charter of Rights. And that being said, actually, the way to be sure that we will be able to say what we have to say, it's, the definition of free speech. Free speech is not it is not there. Freedom of speech, it is not there to protect, the speech that you like. It is there to protect the speech that you don't like. You must have the right to insult somebody or to say some crazy things that somebody think that it's crazy. That's why we have that freedom of speech. And if we didn't have that freedom of speech, it would have been impossible to debate. And that's the basic of our society: debates, ideas, freedom of speech. And, the federal government passed legislations to, restrain and violate our freedom of speech. So there's a lot of bills, on YouTube, on social media. Now the federal government will be able to. They are asking. It's a bill that is not enforced, but they are asking YouTubers or podcasters like you. You may be obliged to register with the federal government, and they will, if you don't say what they want you to say, they will cancel you. They will. So that may happen. So we need to fight that, and the People's Party will do that. It's insane. But the good news is the election of Trump will change that a bit in Canada, because Google, Facebook, YouTube, they are under legislation in the US and under the federal government in the US. And Trump was one of his priority to fight censorship. And he will pass legislation to be sure that they respect freedom of speech. So that will have an impact in Canada because, has been censored on social media, on YouTube. And if Trump pass a legislation, if he's able to do that, that will help us a lot here in Canada to fight for our freedom of speech on social media.
Which is good, because some there needs to be some protection that people can speak. If As long as you're not telling people to commit crimes, you should be able to say
Yeah.
what you want. Like, I don't have to like what you say. I can actually hate what you say, but as long as you're not harming someone, like trying to commit a crime, and I'm not talking about hurt feelings, because hurt feelings is not a crime, right? Like, I mean, we all grew up in the playground.
Yes.
How many times you say something stupid to your friends? Your friend said something stupid to you. You got your feelings hurt, but you lived, right? Like, I mean,
Yeah.
you got to allow those things to happen. So, but I say what you want, let the people be able to get the information that they need and make their decision. What we saw over the last 4 years, that can't ever happen again. It just can't, right?
No,
People,
Yep.
people are miserable. And on top of
yeah.
that, the fiscal policies, we need to touch on that. The money that was being literally printed and they can't account for. What would you do going in on your first day to start dealing with, I mean, the train wreck that Trudeau and Krista
Yep.
Freeland has been doing?
Yeah, we can balance the budget in 1 year. Polyev won't speak about that because he's too afraid to speak about the drastic cuts that we must do. So Yeah, we will cut foreign aid. We'll save $10 billion. If I'm saying that Canada first, why giving our money to other countries? Polyev tried to speak about Canada first, but it's only a slogan for him because he won't cut foreign aid. We can save $10 billion there. We will cut also all corporate welfare, subsidies to big corporations. We will save another $10 billion there. We will cut also the money that the federal government is giving to CBC and Radio Canada, all the funding to these mainstream media. So we will save another $2 billion. And the deficit this year will be about $40 billion. So just speaking with you, I find half of the cuts right now. So we are able to balance the budget. By doing that, after that, we will be able to lower taxes to everybody because we are paying huge taxes, but also we are paying the inflation tax. You know, the federal government, the money that you have in your pocket cannot buy the same amount of goods and services that you were able to buy a year ago. Inflation is a tax. So what we will do, we will stop the money printing and say to the Bank of Canada, you know, you must have a 0% inflation target because 2% inflation, it's bad. 15% inflation is bad. When you have inflation, your purchasing power is going down. We need to stop that. So we are the only party again that is speaking about that. Polyev won't speak about it. He's afraid to speak about cutting spending because he wants to buy votes with money that we don't have.
Yeah, and we need to stop this because I was listening. There were, I think it was Jordan Peterson was talking about this. That when from the time that Trudeau came in till now, Canada is now the richest province in Canada, and all of Canada is poorer than the poorest state in the United States. So Alberta, who is supposed to be the most prosperous, has less prosperity than the state of Mississippi in the United States. Like they are behind everyone. So how did I mean, well, we know how they happened. They started to sprint money and so forth. But what would you do to say, for example, to stimulate the economy here rather than because they did a lot of farming out jobs? Because I grew up in Winnipeg, there was a lot of manufacturing. It left. What would you do to help bring it back here in Canada?
Yeah, by lowering taxes to everybody and no more subsidies to corporation, but a flat tax for corporations. So that will be a big incentive for them to come back in Canada because they will have more profit in their pockets. That will also help Canadians because they will be able to keep more of their paycheck in their pockets. So yeah, lower taxes, small government, no more deficit, and having a new agreement with the US on free trade. I'm ready for that in 2026. Our free trade agreement with the US and Mexico will be up for negotiation. So we need to be ready and to have a good deal. So we can do a lot, but what we must not do is to spend and spend and having these huge deficit because we are paying with the inflation tax when you have a deficit like that. And I'm very disappointed with Polyev because he said, I will fix the budget. But when you ask him a question about how, there's no answer. It's only a slogan. So we are serious about that.
Yeah, just one final question before we wrap up here with because we saw just recently when Trudeau was going to talk to the First Nations here, he just got up and walked off and left them there hanging. We know that he's not done very good. He came out and said that they were genocide the natives and can't even get them to get clean water. What would you do to reform because they're throwing money at them? And a lot of it, but it's not getting where it's needed. What would you do to kind of make that more effective?
There's no uh, how do you say that global or racism in our country, but there's a racist act. That's the Indian Act, And we must get rid of that. We must have a new agreement with First Nations and being sure that, they will have more freedom on reserve. They will be able to, buy a house on reserve. Now it's a kind of a communist system on reserve. There's no property rights over there. So our proposal is to have a new agreement with First Nation based on property rights, respect, and knowing that the federal government won't be and is not able to solve all their problems. They're not able to give drinking water on reserve right now. So let them do what they have to do. And the federal government must be out of the way. And I don't know what will be the details of these new agreements, but it will be based on a new philosophy saying that we want you to be part of this country. We want you to be able to uh, build the businesses in your reserve. So there are some nations that are very successful, other are not. So let's have a discussion about that. But Poliev, Trudeau, and all these mainstream politicians are not ready to look at it. We are ready to look at it, and the first step must be to repeal the Indian Act.
I agree, because even the
Yeah,
way that
I
they
agree.
wrote the Indian Act and the changes that they made, it actually goes against the Jade Treaty that was uh, signed
Yeah.
by the Crown, and we're still obligated to keep it because they did this for wrong reasons, and the federal government should not have done that, gone that direction, because they're
Yeah.
actually hindering their prosperity. And we want all people in Canada to be prosperous, because if everybody can be prosperous and build their own prosperity, it's better for everybody. And I think that that
Yeah.
needs to be done, and that's a good thing. And I mean, thank you for coming. Let's give you a couple of minutes here to kind of just tell people where to find you, where to support you,
Yeah.
and that sort of thing.
Yeah, I want to thank you for having me. That was a fun conversation, and maybe we can do another one a little bit later. Yes, if you want to know me and the People's Party, go on our website, peoplespartyofcanada.ca. Don't hesitate to read our platform. You can also follow me on Twitter, Maxime Bernier, or the People's Party on Twitter. We are on social media. And if you like what I'm saying, I hope that you will support us. And, the election will be in a year. So just we are there to fight for you guys. And we build this party based on four principles: individual freedom, personal responsibility, because we believe in people. We don't believe in a big fat government that will tell you what to do and what not to do. And so respect and fairness, and all our policies are in line with that. And I invite you to go on our website and read it. If you like it, I hope you'll support us. So thank you very much for this opportunity today to be with you, and stay strong and free.
Thank you for coming. And I mean,
Amen.
we we I'll say go and look at the policies, because it's been consistent over the last few years. It makes sense, and what we're seeing, when I saw that all 338 voted to mutilate children, there's nobody that if you can't protect children, you don't believe in this country.
Yeah.
If you can't protect families and have your families first, then you are not first for this country. You believe in somebody else, because
Yep.
families are the building blocks of the churches and the nation. And if you can't protect your families, you hate this country. That's what your actions say. I don't
Yeah.
care what you say. So people, you need to start thinking about people who are going to protect the nation, because we should be having higher birth rates. We're not, because people can't afford to live. And Trudeau was like spending money like it was water. Christian Freeland keep asking, well, all this billions of dollars are going missing. What do you mean it's going missing? Right? Like
Yeah.
you owe the CRA, the Canada Revenue Agency, $20, and they're sending guys to your door to say, "Where's my money?" But you can't
Exactly.
find where our money is. Well, that's not gonna
Yeah.
fly. So take
Yep.
a good look, and so forth. And before we go, I'll close with a prayer before I hand it over to my daughter for a final thought. Thank you for coming. Heavenly Father, Lord, we thank you this day. We thank you for your love, grace, and mercy. Thank you for the hope that you have given us and the work that you've done. And bless Maxime in his efforts to rebuild this country, and those who have decided to work with him, and help all the people that are in the different levels of government that are standing up to do what is right, and give them the strength to push back this evil in this time of darkness, that we would rebuild our families, our churches, our communities, our nation, is my prayer in Jesus' name. Amen.
Thank you again. Bye-bye.
Amen. Thank you so much, Maxime, for coming. Thank you, everybody, for joining us again for this show. And merci beaucoup, Maxime. Je t'apprécie beaucoup aussi. And of course, he's from Quebec. And so, guys, go out and look at the policies of Maxime Bernier. If you go back and look at his videos from a couple years back, he's been saying the same thing consistently. His tune and his voice has not changed. And you will see that if you go back and watch, and I have. And so please go and look into the policies of what he's doing. And if you think that you are impressed by God to support him, then please do it. I personally think, this is my opinion, I think Maxime Bernier is the Trump of Canada. I'm just going to put it straight up and down. I'm just going to say it just like that, because I think that if you go, you'll see. I'm just going to tell you, you'll see. But anyway, thank you guys for your love and support, for listening to us today. Let's be united. Everything that he said today was so important. I loved all of these plans of actions he put forth. He has solutions, and he's speaking my language, because we are identifying a lot of problems, but he's talking about solutions, and that's what we need, so that we can have the peace and prosperity for this nation, because Canada needs to come together. We need to do what's necessary to rebuild our communities, and Maxime's got a plan. So quite frankly, I'm with it. But anyways, guys, we'll catch you guys in the next one. Thank you for your time and considerations. And to my dearest Carris, until we meet again, my friend, and we will. Ciao.